Good morning. Dobre rano. I'm not that well behaved, you know. So if your phone will ring, we'll have a conversation with many, many people. I will just go to you and get in your call. When Kat was introducing me, I was just wondering, I wish that wisdom was mine. But it's not really. I mean, I have access to it, like all of us do, but it's not really mine. And I don't seem to have access to it all the time either. But that's probably not the subject I have today. Why behaviors? Now, Kat was mentioning this is a project that we are doing. And whatever I share today is just what I see now. What I see now is way more than I saw half a year ago or a year ago. And I'm sure it's less than I will see even at the end of today. Because by sharing it, I'll see more. By speaking with you in the workshop, I'll see more. And I hope you will too. It's only fair to talk about behavior about this project by sharing a bit of the genesis of it. I worked in corporate life for 19 years, and I've been noticing, observing behavior, and I worked as a coach for 7 years. But I've noticed behavior, and not all the behavior that I noticed or that I've been around to was nice. And I always had something with bullying. I've been bullied. I had something against sexual harassment. I've been sexually harassed. I had something against mobbing. And all these behaviors were really hell for me. Interesting enough, by being bullied, I learned something. And you would be surprised, but I didn't learn how to be a victim, I learned how to be a bully. And I was a bully. I didn't really like that. And funny enough, I saw that people do not react well to being bullied. I don't know why. And last summer, a few of my clients came to me with cases of bullying, mobbing. Mobbing is a group kind of bullying, if you're not familiar with the term. When a group bullies someone, that's called mobbing. And I wanted to do something about it, I know. I really, really wanted to do something about it. And I wanted to fight the bad behaviors, and I wanted to fight bullying, and I wanted to fight sexual harassment, and I've been reminded that I have a presentation. For those of you that would like some pictures and would not like to focus on my dress. So this is what I was trying to do, to fight all those. And I created a workshop, and I exposed these behaviors. You know what was interesting? After this workshop, a few people that were in the audience came to me, and they were the least inclined to be bullies, but those were the ones that came, oh, I was thinking about what you said. I was wondering if I'm a bully if I raise my voice to that person. And I was thinking, oh, that's interesting. None of the people that were inclined to have that behavior or manifesting already that behavior came to me to say anything. They didn't really hear much out of what I said, to be fair. And that was quite a downer, but I was determined. I wanted to fight these bad behaviors and to create some good in the world. So what did I do? I read the Czech labor law. It has 277 pages, and it's really, really boring. And I made nothing out of that. I realized that these behaviors are not stated there, that they are not punishable in any ways, and I wanted to change that. Because what do? You change circumstances, right? Wrong. And again, that didn't work. Didn't go very far. I mean, we were moving slowly in a sort of a direction, but it wasn't really clear. And then a sunny day in Athens came, and a very respectable audience. And guess what I did? I listened to Michael, and I fell off my chair with laughter. Now, what happened there, and what did I see in that moment of probably quietness in my head? I saw, to Jamie's point this morning, people are not their ideas, but also people are not their behaviors. And a lot of my life made sense to me at that point. It made sense that I can love people if I really don't like them in some moments, because what I didn't like were their behaviors in that moment. Now, needless to say, this small insight that I've got opened the door a bit for me, and the door became a bit ajar. And through that tiny, tiny opening, I started to see more. And the door started to open more and more and more and more. And at the end of today, Michael will have his third book launched in Prague in Czech language, which is Creating the Impossible. Now, somehow, from that moment, this project became my Creating the Impossible project. And the first thing that I did was to talk about it, to talk about this simple thing that I understood, that people are not their behaviors. They just manifest some behaviors. That's all I knew. But I just talked about it, and a lot of people wanted to help. So we started to get guidance from Dr. Bill Petit, from Dr. Bransky, and a lot from Sid Banks' recordings. And through this, my door became more and more open. And I started to see more. Not only that people are not their behaviors, I looked in what is behavior then? If people are not their behaviors, what is? What is it? What's in it for us? What can we do? The whole business world tries to change behaviors, and they use all sorts of techniques and tricks and feedback and reward system and 360, and there are more, right? The trick with this is that it's a sort of a game of rich getting richer and poor getting poorer. It's like when I delivered my workshop about bullying and harassment and all that. The people that could hear that didn't need it. And the people that couldn't need it the most. Now, looking at this, I said, all right, but it has to be something about it. And also, we don't manifest the same behaviors all day, every day. I mean, I have the ability to be a bitch, a lunatic, a really tender pussycat, or sort of a clever woman. In the same day even. what's in that? What's all that? I'm not that. But it seems like during a day I go all sorts of places. I mean, the moment I walked up here, one of my behaviors started to manifest. I started to have a nervous feeling, and I started to shake. And my voice started to tremble a bit. And I said, wow, that's cool. Here I am, manifesting behaviors when I'm talking about behaviors. So that is basically my first or my second understanding about this, that all behavior is a reaction to a feeling or to a feeling state or to a mood. You can call it many ways, state of mind, mood, feeling state, whatever it is. The reaction that you'll have there, my reaction in Athens, when I started to laugh like a crazy maniac, interrupting this kind gentleman from his, how do you call that? Whatever, I'll remember. That was a behavior. It was my reaction to the feeling of relief, that I didn't have to change anything to change behavior. Yeah? It was just a reaction to that. Oh, another way, and that is through my conversations with Dr. Pransky, is an attempt for people to stabilize themselves after a feeling. And we'll talk about that more in the workshop. Or a coping mechanism. Smoking, for me, was my coping mechanism, let's say. Every time I felt stressed, my first instinct was to go and have a cigarette, because that calms me down. I felt a bit calmer, to be fair, but it had nothing to do with smoking. But by disconnecting myself from whatever I was doing, because in those 5 minutes when I was having a cigarette, I was allowed to be in peace. That was my break from whatever. A temporary relief from emotional suffering. Jamie was talking about drinking in the morning, or drugs. Or Jacqueline was mentioning people cutting themselves. All these, in my understanding, are behaviors, and they are nothing more or less than a reaction to a feeling. But still, where do they come from? Because it's easy to say, oh, it's a reaction to a feeling, and you had that feeling, and you felt bad, and of course, you have the liberty to behave badly. But it was a bit more to that, and my door started to open a bit more. Because, all right, it is an effect to a feeling, but what is a feeling? It's a creation of thought, as many people taught us, and as I started to see in this time. And you'll hear more people talking about this. And then I said, oh, holy cat. It all starts and it all ends with the same thing, with a thought. Who would have thought about that? And it's interesting. I wouldn't have any smoking behavior if I wouldn't think of it. And actually, I put that to the test many times. If I'm in my flow, if I'm working, if I'm with clients, I don't think about that. I don't need to do it. The more I think about it, the more I have the urge to go and smoke. Because that's in my head. Now, I also learned that behavior is observable. You know, it has 4 components, or so I figured it out so far. And the first is thought. and probably the most important. But then there is action, physiology, and speech. Now these three are making it observable. Yeah? Like you could observe my laughing, or my shaking, or my voice trembling. But it's observable by everyone, including kids. So in preparing this, I said, I don't know what to put on that slide, but everyone seemed to think it's a good idea to have a PowerPoint. And therefore I did. So I have no idea. I'll put some words there, but I don't know what to put there. And then I said, it's about art. And behavior is observable. So I asked my plethora of nieces and nephews, and I have quite a few, to draw some characters for me. Yeah? How do they see someone that is insightful and therefore behaves like that? How do they see someone that is clear-headed, clear-minded? How do they see someone that is worried or afraid? How do they see someone that is preoccupied? The children that draw for me were between the ages of 4 and 12. And whatever you'll see next, it's their drawings. And how they saw these behaviors. So let's take the insightful, creative, original thinking. So for my nephew Dragos, I don't know why he says that someone that is in that kind of thinking will never say never, even if he says never twice. Or for my niece Pia, someone that is in that state is going to have wings to fly. Now, let's think about it. Someone that you know and you would describe as having insightful, creative, original thinking. I wake up next to one every day, and I'm lucky. They are usually at the top of their industry. Their strategic planning is praised. They are the creative forces in whatever industry they are. They are the keynote speakers in events. They are the mentors for the industry. They are the ones that publish whatever it is to be published about their industry. Their behavior is cooperative. They can see clearly. Their mind is open. And that's just a few things that you can say about them. But I'm sure if you think of someone in your life that resembles that, you'll find more to describe that person. The clear-minded. Again, Dragos thought that a clear-minded person meditates. And Pia's head is just in a nice state. The most interesting was my niece Maria, who is 4. She also drew for me. The only thing that she could not understand was the idea of clear-headed. She could understand original, creative. She could understand worried and stressed. She could understand preoccupied and distracted. She could not understand clear-headed. No matter how the explanation went to her. And at some point I just stopped and I said, Maria, just draw yourself. Of course she couldn't understand that. She was that. That's all she knows. Her head is clear. Her mind is clear. Didn't have time to clutter it with behaviors yet. Now, if you think about these clear-minded people, they just operate easily in the world again. They have perspective. They are ahead of the curve. They are successful. They are envied for their success. They can speak nicely and clearly to anyone. They are cooperatives. Cooperative, sorry. Now let's move on. Now these are my preoccupied, distracted people. I asked Pia, what does it mean? And she said, she's in a box, or she has barrier, she can't see. That's all she can see in that box. And for Lucy, it was about the face. Oh, you can see their face. It's got like getting thinner, and the eyes are getting bigger, and you can see them that they are like that. Interesting. Pierre and Lucy are 11, I think. Now, how would you describe these people? They are the ones that are taking notes, usually, by the way. Their mind is always spinning. You speak with them, but they are not there, really. And you can see that. They are short-sighted. They will react quickly to anything without putting too much thought into it. And these are, again, only a few ways to describe them. Now let's go forward. This is the best part of my presentation, I swear. Now for Dragos, these are my worried or stressed people. I asked him, why did you do that? He said, didn't you see those people that look at a chicken and they think it's a dinosaur? Correct? Now imagine how many chickens in our head look like that, dinosaurs. And that is actually sad. Dragos is 9, and he saw that many times. Kids, his colleagues, being worried to go to school because they are being mocked or bullied. Now, how would we describe the fearful, stressful, worried thinking, or the people that behave out of that thinking? They are stuck most of the time. They can't cooperate, they don't listen. They are ineffective. They are basically not going much further. They are in companies, they are the dinosaurs. Nothing changed for many, many years for them. Now, these are made up and arbitrarily put there. But we can play a bit with them. And the fact that I put them like that, again, it's made up. We can have many of those there. But for the purpose of this presentation, I chose it like this. And I put there a line of pain. And that line of pain is not real. It actually represents mostly the way we use the gift of thought. Because as I was saying earlier, I have the ability to be a bitch. But I also have the ability to be clear-minded. Equal possibilities. Every moment of every day, I can go anywhere. I can go there, I can go there. And the only difference that I know of is the way we use this incredible gift of thought that everyone today and tomorrow will talk about. Now, because I talked about this as a workplace behavior, I thought, what happens when all these characters that I was mentioning before get together? And you know, there is a tendency for people to join groups that look familiar to them or that feel comfortable to them. Yeah? So therefore, you'll find companies, a fearful person will definitely go to a traditional company. A clear-headed person will go to a company that is moving forward. An original person will go to the top companies in his field. And this is what forms, in my head so far, the culture of the company. And it is the way I look at it. The level of thinking that is accepted in that company determines the culture of that company. Now, if you have a company where more people that are insightful, creative, clear-headed, you will describe that culture as a change agent, as resourceful, as highly productive. In the same time, a company made of stressed, worried, fearful people, you will describe as stuck, reactive or burned out, or competitive and frantic. Now, are we doomed? Because nothing seems to, bless you, nothing seems to really change behaviors. But then I remember thought. And it's funny because at some point when I said, oh, it all comes from thought, what am I going to do? I'm going to go up that stage and say to people, guys, I figured out, it's just thought. But I thought you paid more for that than me telling you. Now, what if? What if we could actually predict how a project will go? What if we could actually predict how the turnover of the company will be? How we'll end the year? Just by looking at the level of thinking that people have in that company. What if? What if a leader will understand this? What is it possible then for that leader to do? To change the level of thinking? Because 10 minutes, only 10 minutes, I've been told. What is possible then? For them to see, what is possible for a leader to do to help with this current level of thinking? The only thing that I thought about is, well, if he understands it, he can talk with people about it. And I'll give you an example of that. High-level executive came to me about a month ago, or a bit more. He was having troubles with one of his country managers that was somehow in his supporter. And he was, oh, this guy is lying, is lazy, his numbers don't add up. He used all his budget in the first 2 months and then he lied to us for the next 10 about it. His market share is down in an economy that is growing. All his competition went up. He's the only one, his direct boss is supporting him and it's a fraternity there and they are all covering for each other. And he kept on telling me about this. And I don't know what came to me by listening. And I said, would you be willing to consider that that person might be running scared? Because from what you're describing me, this particular behavior is of someone that is running scared, of someone that has a chip on the shoulder, of someone that is insecure. Yes, but he's an adult, he should deal with this. And he's in this profession and he's paid all this money. And I said, yeah, but in the same time, he's human. And he's not being excused from his humanity just because he's the managing director of a business in a country. That doesn't excuse anyone. Mr. Trump is not excused from his behavior and from being human, and he's the president of the United States. We are all the same. And he said, all right, but what can I do? Should I send him to a therapist or something? That is an option. But the other option you have is to really connect with him at a human level. And to the best of your abilities, to allow that person to relax. And I don't know if you noticed, but when people are relaxed and in a good place, they don't exhibit bad behaviors. And they don't need to be taught good behaviors. People in a good place naturally exhibit good behaviors. People in a bad place naturally exhibit bad behaviors. Now, going back to my story, he did. He did go back to that manager, and for the first time they had a conversation when both parties listened to each other. The result of that is that things started to go better. It's just a month, but things started to get better. The high-level executive is in this room. Thank you for allowing me to share the story. And I'll come back to you and tell you if his manager is doing well or not. So far, so good. Now, think about the company as a living organism, like a body. If you have a sore leg, you're still functioning, but if you go for a run, your run won't be that good. Now, if a company has a sore leg, that will reflect on the productivity, on the creativity, and on the performance of that company. Or so I've noticed. I like when he's always smiling to me. He's that guy in the audience who makes you feel very confident and very good, if he only could. I forgot what I wrote there. So that was actually, that's where my door is now. As long as a leader or anyone, because this is not only for leaders, this is not only for business area. It works the same in sports. I was watching Drive to Survive, the Formula One documentary on Netflix. And there is a driver for Haas, it's called Grosjean, I think, Grosjean, something like that. And for last year, the documentary is from last year, half of the season, he was all over the place. And you could notice his behavior was going frantic. Every race almost, he was crashing the car. Every race. And you can hear the chat that they have with the people, with their managers and however they are called. And from Grosjean, he cut me off. Have you seen? It wasn't my fault. All he was thinking was that. Now, tell me, how on earth can you win anything out of that? His mind was so preoccupied with his colleagues or whomever was cutting him, was pushing him, was crashing him, that driving was the last thing that he was thinking about. And driving was the only thing that he was about to do there. It's one particular episode where the manager says, "Tell him to stop whinging and start driving." Well, that wasn't so nice, let's say, but he was right. Now, the second part of the season, he came back. And he even admits in the series that he started to come back the moment he started to train his mind. Not only his body or his driving techniques or whatever. And remember, that guy is one of the 20 best in the world. Not to mention a high-level executive. Come on. There are only 20. He's one of the best, and he still gets into bad mood. He still believes he's thinking. He still believes whatever goes on through his head. And so are all of us. On Tuesday this week, I woke up with a terrible, terrible, terrible mood. Feeling state of mind, or whatever you want to call it. Now, everything looked shitty to me in that day. Everything. I had a chat with Win. He was my mentor. And usually our chats were lively and nice and calm and insightful. And this time it was, wah! Nothing changed from the day before. I was still the same. He was still the same. During the night, nothing dramatic happened. But I was in a very, very bad mood. Now, my behavior out of that bad mood was a complete meltdown. I still have the ability to be a lunatic. And you know what? It was so surprising to me. But it was more surprising that I used to be like that every day. Every single day. People tell me now that I do a lot and I am fast. And I'm like, you should have seen me 9 years ago. They used to call me the Duracell rabbit. Just never stopping. Now, I share this with you because this understanding is not a fix. It's not a cure. You will feel good, but not all the time. You will feel happy, but not all the time. Sometimes you'll feel better, sometimes you'll feel worse. It's not an excuse from humanity. Do I have less of that? Oh, by all means. Do I have less of the nonsense? Yes. Why do I have less of the nonsense? It's not magic. I just don't really believe that to be true. I mean, I might for a day, or half an hour, or a short amount of time, but it doesn't hold. I think I can't unsee what I've once seen. That I make things up. Gloriously. Now, that's honestly the only thing I know so far. And I'm sure in this journey, and with your help, I will learn more. I talked about Gorshan and I spoke about this, Jamie called it resilience. I was speaking with Grant the other day and because a lot of people say, oh, why should I go to coaching? There's nothing wrong with me. Do you go to gym because there's something wrong with you? No. You go to gym because you want to train your body. You want to exercise. You want to be fit, not because you're ill. There is a certain mental fitness in this. And this understanding and this looking to what makes our day-to-day reality, what makes our day-to-day behavior. I love this creative project, and I read at the end probably my favorite quote from Mr. Banks. Your thoughts are like the artist's brush. They create a personal picture of the reality you live in. I asked Dragos to draw a warrior princess. And he said, he's quite perceptive, you know. He's a young 9-year-old, but he's quite quite good with this. And he said, he lives in Romania, by the way, and he noticed what's happening around him and the behavior around him quite well. And he said, if you have a nice purse and a mini, you can do anything. A nice purse and a mini. Well, he figured out early in his life what's important for him. So that's what he tried to draw. I don't know where the mini is. That's it from me. It was quite nice. There was no phone ringing. Wasn't that nice? We'll speak about more about this in the workshop. And please bring your questions. Because I'm not only put your speaker to work kind of girl, I'm also put your audience to work kind of girl. But for now, I thank you so much for your kindness and for being here. Tell me what's inside of your head. No matter what you say,